So for today we will be looking at the butterfly kick or the bee kick. The bee kick is basically this motion right here, where we're trying to organize ourselves in the air as a butterfly. It's an airborne type of movement where we travel horizontally in the air, and it's a great way to enter into other airborne type of movement where we get this sense of experiencing levity in a momentous time period. So for today we'll look at how we can achieve this one by using some other movements and some patterns that can work into it. So one movement that I like to use to warm up for the bee kick are the leg swings, both those going sideways and backwards. So this will be looking like this. You can either reach an object like this stall bar, or you can have a box in front of you, or any object of any kind. And from here we can start by simply swinging backwards. And then we can also go sideways. So a movement I like to start with to understand the kind of upward going lift in the bee kick is simply to stand on the ground like this. And then stack your weight onto one side, so one leg. From here we're simply gonna extend backwards and try to jump off from the floor. Small jumps. So really from the hinge position, come down and then bend a little bit in the knee. I swing my arm backwards simultaneously as I try to lift my leg upwards. Through this global extension of all the segments, you can see the spine kind of working upwards as well. I will get a sense of a lift. Just like this. When we get proficient, we understand lift and the defying of gravity, we can then start to shift the weight or swap the feet. So from this one, I shift onto my right foot. Basically, back and forth. This will help you get a bit more proficient in the lift off from the floor. So the basic pattern for the bee kick is basically standing in somewhat of a straddle position, reaching your arms to the side. From here you're gonna swing them in a semicircle whilst dipping the torso. We're coming through and trying to face backwards with our torso and extending the arms outwards. So once again, dipping down, facing backwards. Now I will attempt to kick through the air, almost cut through the air with my leg, and then jump onto my right foot rather than my left one. So that's the base heuristic of it, and I end up facing the same direction that I came from. So to practice the midsection of the base movement, where we kind of want to expand ourselves and really stretch out our limbs and lift upwards. A good way to do it is to use a box to support ourselves and lessen the demand for the actual kickoff from the ground. So it's basically the same principle as before. I look away from the box, I then reach out with my arms, I dip down, place my arms on the box. From here, extend outwards with my legs, but also my torso forwards, so I get this stretch in both directions. And with time, one can even alleviate the pressure coming from the hands and making it more and more into lower body exercise, cutting through the air with the legs. It's also just a good warm-up into the actual pattern that you'll later on practice. So let's try now to work a little bit on the base pattern using these heuristics that we've taken from before. So from the straddle position, I reach my arms to the side, I do the dip down, I come into my organization here, lift off from the ground and attempt to land on the other leg. At this point, we don't need to take a large jump, we just need to swap legs and try to find balance. It will become easier with momentum as you understand the pattern itself. So what we're aiming towards in the beat kick is we're trying to find a position where we've achieved a great length in our segments. So we've had this stored elasticity in some sense. So that when I quickly enter this position, as I won't be able to hold it for long because there's so much force, and I want to jump off and lift with it, I come in and I stretch out like this to then release and really travel more horizontally in the air. So from here, and with this idea of length, we can then search for where we feel this sensation intuitively, stretching and then letting go, releasing that energy fully with the foot. So with the idea of length in our mind, let's try to refine the movement a bit. And two cues that can help you in this movement, and something I like to think about, is partly one, to think about the lower body or the legs kind of sweeping or kicking through the air, almost like a cutting motion. So that when I'm coming downwards, I'm almost throwing my legs away from myself. And with that, my body's being pulled in that direction. So, generating a lot of force and really turning you around as well. And secondly, one thing that I like to think about as I'm practicing is where I have my focal point or where I'm watching when I'm doing the movement or training it, as this can kind of affect how you will orient your body or your spine maybe. By focusing on maybe a point or an object, it can either be a little bit more forwards or in the horizon. This will probably help you gain a bit more length through the spine and also pull with the head as you're going into the position. Because usually when you're looking downwards, it can kind of affect your expansion in a bit, making you a bit more contrived or get into yourself. So we'll try this as well. If I try to spot the camera once, I try to really look forwards, and with this, maybe I flatten myself out and travel a bit more horizontally. Like this. And now we can use this to practice. And one variation that I like to use, that you saw in the last video, is this kind of side-stepping motion into it, as it builds momentum quite nicely, and it's also quite intuitive. So you're starting from this position, simply swipe or pivot backwards, entry into the straddle position, and from here you can then take off into more of a frisbee going motion. So